Everyone. It's indeed a great pleasure to have you in this session where we are going to be discussing the book, The Bridge Called Woman, which has just been published, and you can see copies. For our online audience, you're most welcome. We have 19 participants online. This book is a collaboration between Ugandan writers and American writers, and I'm privileged to chair this session. We don't have much time, so I won't spend a lot of time with the introductions. And I feel that if any of the panelists want to introduce themselves in depth, they can. But because the panel is about memoir, we are going to be listening to them talk about themselves and their writings. I'm Florence Ebila. I teach in the School of Women and Gender Studies, and my area of interest is women's autobiography. And it's very exciting to be chairing a session where I'll be talking to women who are writing about women's stories and to people who are interested in collaboration and linking women to write across the board. Briefly, let me introduce my panelists. From my immediate, is that left or right? I begin to get confused. From my immediate right, we have Hilda Twonjere, who is from FemRight. And then immediately after her, we have Jane Francis Cooker, Honorable, who is going to be talking about her article. And then the next panelist is, you're not. Then we have Amy Peterson from the US Embassy, who facilitated this collaboration. Online, we have Pamela Fitch. I hope you're there online. I can't see the names right now, but you're most welcome. And we have Ali Tucker Lichtenstein from WWA, which collaborated with FemRight. So each panelist, we're already 30 minutes late. Each panelist will have 10 minutes to talk about the project, and I want to give you time to freely present specific issues about this project that was exciting to you, and then after that I'll be following that up with questions and answer sessions. So without wasting much time, I want to invite Hilda Twonjere to introduce herself and talk about The Bridge Called Woman and this project that she initiated with colleagues from the USA. Using this.
You'll be checking for the audience.
Can she speak from there? Yeah. Just switch on her microphone. Panelists, feel comfortable to talk from where you are. We'll pass on the microphone if your microphone is not working. Okay.
It's not working? I would like to thank you, Dr. Ebila, for accepting to chair our session. But I also would like to take this opportunity to thank my alma mater, Makerere University, for giving us such a beautiful space to express ourselves, to grow, creating opportunities for us to interact, and giving us this conference. Thank you, Makerere University, and staff and everybody who has worked so hard to give us this space. I see our writers, the authors of this bridge called Woman, and some of the storytellers, so it wouldn't be right for me to start even speaking before recognizing their presence. The writers who are here, I see Doreen Bengana, I see Flavia Kabuye, I see Fortunate Tusasire, I see Peace Chamureku. Who else? Please put up your hand. It's important that your name is pronounced, is said out loud. Davina Kauma, thank you all for being here. This bridge called Woman, and online there's Dr. Ali Taka, who I worked with tirelessly through nights. Because of time difference, sometimes we had to work, many times we worked through the night because we couldn't get a convenient time for us to work during day. So either one would be up midnight, 1 a.m., you know, for us to be able to accomplish the task. There's Pamela Fitch also, who is also on the panel. I recognize your presence and thank you so much for accepting to be part of this. I don't see who else is online, but I'm sure probably some of the writers and authors and artists are there. But this, to give you, I think I should say one or two things about Femrite, where I work. It's, I'm sure most of you know about it, but for those of you who do not know Femrite, we are a women writers initiative, one of the oldest, I think, in the country. Now there are more, and so it's a warmer space that we are in now. But when we started, it was pretty cold, but now it's warmer. We do publishing, we do training of especially women writers. I'm saying especially because our trainings also have men sometimes and others. Yes, so, and then we do promotion of the writers. We create spaces that promote writers. Again, I'll add especially women. And maybe I don't have to answer why especially women, but if you Googled, if you Googled something about them, about women writing, the space of women in books and literature, you would find out why our focus, why we are biased more towards women. So this bridge called Woman, is a memoir. They are short biographies. We started out wanting to do memoir, and then we thought, no, let's make them biographies to create more space for conversation. And so the book has writers, it has storytellers, it has artists, all collaborating to tell stories. So a woman from Uganda would interview a woman from the US. And another woman from the US would interview a woman from Uganda. Because in addition to conversation, also we wanted a deeper interaction, a deeper cultural exchange, and we are delighted that the product, that the 20 short biographies in there prove the deep conversations, the deep interactions that happened. The writers are here. They will probably speak more about it, and we'll have more questions that explore the deeper questions. But that is how it is. And the artists, their paintings and pictures, again, we got artists who looked at the stories and tried to interpret them visually. And so it's a book with 62 women, writers, 10 writers from the US, 10 writers from Uganda, 10 storytellers from Uganda, 10 storytellers from the US, 10 artists from Uganda, 10 artists from the US, all collaborating. and working together. We had workshops in memoir writing. The project, I think I have 1 minute or two to go. I see.
You'll still come back, so you can talk more about the project later.
Okay. So that in brief, really, that is how it worked. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hilda. Without wasting much time, I'm going to request that you move the mic to Honorable Jane Francis Cooker. You're most welcome. We are privileged to have you here. It's only times like this when we get to see the face behind stories that are great for Ugandan women, and you are one of the most significant women who have participated actively in trying to fight FGM, and we're very proud to have you here as the College of Humanities and Social Sciences and as the School of Women and Gender Studies. Tell us briefly, what intrigued you about this writing process, the book writing process?
Thank you very much, our moderator. First of all, I must thank God who has enabled me to be here today. I thank FarmRight, who selected me among the 20 ladies in the whole world, because Uganda, US, and others, to write a book. I think I will not be here. I thank also the university for this hall. This hall reminds me when I was in the US sometime, in a press conference. The hall was so huge like this one. But that time, women were full. It is unfortunate that some seats are a bit empty. But I think next time, it will be more full up. Ladies and gentlemen, my names, I'm called by names, Jane Francis Cooker, honorable, because once honorable, you remain honorable. Jane Francis Cooker grew up knowing FGM as a harmful practice. How did I come to know when I was just growing and a young girl of 10 years? It is because I witnessed the female genital mutilation when they were cutting our girls. Those days, it was a taboo, but we managed to peep through between the legs of the people who were cutting the girls. When I saw them cutting the girls and throwing the clitoris down and they were jumping, I ran away very fast to my mother. I asked her whether I could go through such a culture. She educated me. I like the theme of today, knowledge. I got the knowledge. After seeing, I ran to my mother, found out whether I would be cut like what they were being cut. Though I didn't know that was harmful, but because of the experience, I think I saw, because seeing is believing. From that time, my mother helped me. She told me, my daughter, you must read very hard in order to escape this culture. Otherwise, everybody must go through it. Now, I grew up knowing that FGM was harmful. So I started fearing it, then talking to my teachers. I was lucky, I was in a convent school. They advised me, my daughter, in order to escape this FGM, you must become a teacher. Though I didn't want to be a teacher, but they directed me, guided me, I became a teacher. So I went for a teacher training college for 4 years. After that, I got married, though I was still young, because 4 years, I think I was about 18, 19. I asked my husband to support me. You know, it was very serious that time. FGM was a taboo. Whether you like it or not, you had to be circumcised. But I managed to use persuasive language and escaped. My husband, I told him, you must support me from being cut. He told me he also wanted an uncircumcised woman. Now, the mother-in-law became very tough those days. Very early in the morning, he could shout near my compound, telling my husband why he married an uncircumcised woman. But my husband kept quiet, explained to her nicely that that was his choice. Instead, I made my mother-in-law my best friend. Anything little we could share with her until she accepted me to be loved in the community. The second person, I think, who educated me more was my grandmother. Now, when I went to my grandmother's place, because their home was near the school, I could sleep there sometime. I used to see her sleeping in different rooms from the grandpa. And I asked her, you know, good enough, I think I could ask questions. I asked her, Grandy, why are you not sharing? He said, my Grandy, be patient. Let me tell you. When you have a scar and you go on scratching it, what do you feel? Every time scratching, you feel pain. So which means she was not enjoying sex. She was feeling pain instead. All that I put in mind. I said, no, female genital mutilation must be harmful to the health of women. Now, when I was married, as I said at that time, I wanted still to continue reading because I was still young. My husband accepted. I continued reading, upgrading myself, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, grade 5, up to graduate. I came here. We were the first lot who attended the external degree. And it took us 5 years. Can you imagine? Nowadays, people take only 3 years. So we took 5 years in the university here. I was that time a principal of teacher training college. While I was there, I was educating the students. Now, community was starting to know that Madam Kuka, that time I was called Yashiwa, but because of the husband's name Kuka, they said, I think she's doing a good job. I was now a principal. And moreover, a woman principal, woman leader within Kapchorwa district, the only woman leader. Now, that time, I could be attending the council meetings. In 1988, things became hot. Though they loved me, but they said no. Their culture was fading. They must look for the root cause. Who is causing this? They said, Madam Kuka, we must cut you whether you like it or not. I tried to put up my hand to defend myself. It was not easy. So what I did, I went out. I met the chairperson, National Association, National Council, National Association of Women Organization in Uganda. I have heard of Peace Chamreko being here. We worked with her. I was also a member. One time I was the vice president of NAU. So from there, we went to the ministry of, that time was development and community development. Mrs. Panga was the minister. We explained our issue. Mrs. Panga went to the president. The president sent her with the helicopter to Kapchorwa district with the doctors. They came and educated the local council that FGM was harmful. Now they was starting to know. Then the cultural leaders, the local councils said, how did you expect us to know that FGM was harmful? That is what they questioned after educating them. So education is very important. Now, from that time, they put in place an ordinance for those women who who wanted to continue being cut, and those who didn't want to be cut, to be left free. No force, because they were using force at that time. And that is when we broke the taboo of FGM in Kapchorwa district. I was happy that I was given a freedom to leave circumcision. From right, I wonder why somebody writes a book and saying Kuka was cut. I escaped and I was fighting. So that book needs to be corrected. I have been fighting through. Now, from that time, after the ordinance, we started moving out. I remember Dr. Madra taking me to Ethiopia. We went for conferences. We came back. I was now supported. UNFPA came in to support us. There was a project we wrote, Reach Project, written by Jackson Kekweko, to help the youth know that female genital mutilation was harmful, and the cultural people to know more about it. Now I said, enough is not enough for me. I must go ahead to make sure that people, the whole capturers, should know that FGM was harmful. I joined politics. In politics, I failed the first time. They said, Kuka, we are not giving you a vote. I never minded. It was the first time after failing, that's when I went to read. I joined the first this external degree. I read for all those years. But in 1994, I stood. I said, let me stand. Maybe they have understood. They said, no way. I failed again. So in 1996, I stood. When I was graduating, I went through politics very highly, moreover. And my friend who has been defeating me, I defeated her. Unfortunately, Bambi, she passed her on. May her soul rest in peace. Even the chairperson now passed on. Even the chairman who wanted to cut me by force passed on. May their souls rest in eternal peace. Yes. So after, in 1996, the government had seen the struggle I had gone through. They appointed me a minister. When I was a minister, I started now fighting openly the female genital mutilation. Now, when I started being a minister, that was Minister of State for Gender and Culture Affairs. We are the people who started gender affairs in Uganda. I remember when I was saying, how do we reach the women? How do we reach the youth? How do we reach the elders? How do we reach who and who? As a Minister of State, we made sure that all those programs were in place. And for sure, they were in place, and it has helped our youth, our women councils, the elders, all those. So I think I played a very big role there. Then with the culture, our cultures, our leaders, cultural leaders, local people, the community, I could go back to the district, mobilize people, they come for meetings. It could take a lot of time for men to accept my calling of them attending the meeting. It was not easy. The men come alone. I said, can you go and bring the women? We extend the meeting. We say, no, we are not going to start before the women. So they go and bring the women. Later on, I had to teach them that we must work with our women. Without women, we cannot develop. I told the women to participate, contribute in their home. Also give gifts to these men, because they were not supposed to go to the market. Women in those days were not supposed to go to the market. But I made sure they were free. Women could now go to the market, do business. I told them, when you do business, get some money, contribute in the home, pay school fees for the girls, for the boys, so that these men can understand that without women, they cannot be alone. That one we achieved, and our leaders. Now, if you go to Kapchorwa, they say, Kuka, don't talk more about FGM, we know it. It happened that I had the chance in 1998, I went to US for another program. Then I organized, for the press conference, I talked with the women. They asked me to tell my testimony. After that, we formed an NGO Godparents Association, they came and supported. We stole the girls from, from Kapchorwa. We could bring them in Kampala, hide them, teach them. We even opened the school. Then after holidays, they could go back and teach others. So with all those initiatives, what I did, it helped people to understand FGM.
Okay.
Yes. And from there, time.
Yes. You can wind up.
My story is so big. That's why I thank FemRight when they gave us the lecturers I had a lecturer from US who summarized our story from 17,000 words to 7,000 words. I think that is wonderful, though I am now going to write a book so that most of my words can be included in, because this is brief, a bit summarized. So thank you very much, and I thank everybody who has come to listen to this.
Thank you very much, Honorable Jane Francis Cooker. We're still going to come back to you. This is just like the opening, and we want each person to talk about what really fascinated them about the project first. Then I will ask specific questions. And if you have other things that you want to share, you can still talk about. So without wasting much time, let me go to Amy, and welcome to Makerere University. And thank you for the collaboration for facilitating the collaboration between FemRight and WWA. I forget the whole acronym, so I won't go into that. Tell us about your experience bridging these women and bringing this project to fruition.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for the invitation today. My name is Amy Peterson, and I'm the Cultural Affairs Officer at the U.S. Embassy here in Kampala. And on behalf of the Embassy, I want to say congratulations to FemRight on the publication of this book. I know it's been a long time coming, and we're honored to see it in print here today. I also want to say thank you to Makerere for hosting this event as part of the 100-year celebrations. This is a great time to honor the legacy of Makerere University. And at the U.S. Embassy, we're so proud to have been part of Makerere's development over the years through many of the academics that have participated on U.S. Embassy exchange programs such as Fulbright, both Ugandans going to the United States and Americans coming here. And we know that the impact of these individual exchange participants makes this university more vibrant and American universities more vibrant. And that's really what my section at the U.S. Embassy is doing. I'm on the public affairs team, and we are helping build the bridges between the United States and Uganda. And we do that by investing in the Ugandan people through exchange programs, small grants, and training opportunities. And we hope to introduce some American culture and context here in Uganda, as well as give Ugandans the chance to share your story in the United States. Because through those programs, we build the mutual understanding that forges a deeper bond between our two countries. And that's why we were honored to support this project. And as Hilda has mentioned in her foreword, this project actually came out of an exchange program that the U.S. Embassy supported, where we brought women writers from Uganda to the United States, and they met with the Women's Writers Association in California. And the brainstorming from that session led to them submitting a proposal of then what became this book. And what I love about this project is it is codifying in literature the history of both Ugandan and American women. And these are voices that don't always have the chance to be told in such a formal way, that will be in libraries, online, and accessible to the next generations. And I will say, you asked me, why am I personally interested in this project? When I was in high school, in 11th grade, which is the year before you graduate from what we call senior secondary, I participated in an oral history project. And my history teacher at the time was busy teaching us American history. And we read all the formal books written by the formal academics. But he said, you know, you also have to learn history from people who lived it. And one of our assignments in the history class was to conduct oral history, where we as students had to go interview somebody who lived through an important moment in American history. And then we would do official recordings, we would write our summary of that project and how that piece of American history fit in a broader context. And then we actually created an archive at our high school of these oral history projects. And when I was reading the women's stories in this book, it made me think of those oral history projects that I did in high school, because it is collecting the stories, like Honorable Kuka's stories, that are so important to recording the history of our culture. And I love that this project took those individual stories of both Ugandan women and American women and are telling them in their own voice. And it lets us share how these individual women's stories fit in the broader context of the 21st century, of the 20th century, of all of the changes that women have gone through in these years. And we can see those in these stories. And so I hope that for generations to come, this type of cultural collaboration between women will be something that we hold up and revere. Because I think these are the stories that tell us who we are and who we want to be. So again, on behalf of the U.S. Embassy, thank you for the invitation and congratulations on putting together this work. I think it's a great representation of the collaboration between two cultures and particularly the women writers in both countries. So congratulations and thank you again.
Thank you very much for giving that background and for the encouragement to write. We can see that stories are not innocent. They are not just things that we talk about to entertain ourselves. We have a lot to learn from, and it's important to know women's stories. It's important to know history. Oral history, if we don't write it, will just die with us. So this collaboration is great. I would like to invite the online presenters to give us also a little overview. I'm being reminded that we have very little time, so we are going to give you 5 minutes to just talk about your experience of the project. Starting with Pamela, can you unmute and speak to us? We are listening. What fascinated you about the project? Yes, Pamela.
Am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
Yes, you are. And if you can put your video as well, we'll flash you and the audience will be able to see you.
I'm not sure how to do the video.
Okay. Then we can just listen to you, no problem.
My camera should be working, but I'm not familiar with this, so I apologize for not being able to show you my face, but I'm honored to be part of this project. It was at times extremely frustrating, but it's very rewarding. I am thrilled to see the physical book there. I've only seen a digital copy so far. I don't think, Ali can correct me, I don't think anyone in the States has the book itself yet. I am one of the American writers. My storyteller was Mary Okarut, which I knew from the get-go was a great honor. Oh, start my video. I now have my video started.
Yes, now we can see you.
Hello, everyone. I'm not as high-tech as I would like to be. And that reminds me, I wanted to begin with a little disclaimer. Although I am a writer as part of this project, and I'm pleased that my academic credentials were recognized in the program, I have to confess that my degrees are in chemistry. I'm actually a retired scientist, so my experience as a writer was probably even more different. But as I learned more about Mary, I was even more impressed and daunted about communicating her story. And partway through, we had a problem. For circumstances, Mary was not able to continue our WhatsApp conversations, which is how I was learning her story. So my chapter is a little different in that I switched midstream, and some people have noticed and commented on that. A lot of my chapter turned into a partial history of Femrite and some commentary by members of Femrite. And this was difficult. I had a lot of discussions with Ali and Hilda along the way about what can we do since I can't go further directly with Mary. And in the end, I was very satisfied with it because I realized that the history of Femrite had not really been collected, and it's a history that deserves to be known and recognized and available. I feel I was able to make a start. I hope some people will pick up on it and go further with it. If anyone has questions, I'd be happy to answer. Perhaps I should let Ali take a turn. I know we're a little short on time, but again, I'm honored to have been part of this project and to be speaking with you today.
Thank you very much, Pamela. We are very, very happy and honored that you could be able to wake up with, I know it's a bit early there, and talk to us about the project. The book, certainly Hilda will tell us when it came out. I think it has barely come out, so we are happy that it came out in time for the conference. Without wasting much time, let me call upon Ali to give a few words about our experience of the project. You're welcome. Unmute, please.
Hello, thank you. I am honored to be here tonight, this morning. Dr. Abila, my background is women and gender studies, and we have a lot in common. I look forward to further conversations. This story just getting started. So thank you for moderating our panel. Honorable Kuka, your story is a story that everyone needs to hear, and you truly are a bridge to knowledge revolutions. So thank you for your time, your passion, your energy. Amy Patterson, I hope that these collaborations continue. Codifying stories, yes, let's keep it going. There are so many stories within stories. We have just begun to tell them. I hope this is the beginning of many more. Pamela Fitch, a writer, a proofreader on the project. My hat is off to you, and to save time, I'll leave it at that. To Hilda Twangeri, my colleague, my collaborator, my partner in this. From the moment you walked in, the forces that got you to Women's Wisdom on that rainy December, you and Regina, to conceiving the project, to Regina telling us to do the hard thing, to write across the cultures, to taking that advice and continuing on. It has been a remarkable process. And of course, as we're all aware, this happened during the height of the pandemic, as it rolled through Uganda, through the United States, and women formed an intimacy and shared stories in a way that was really unprecedented. And I think that beyond cultural exchange, people were surprised at some of what they learned, certainly about US history. I think some of the Ugandan writers were surprised at some of the what they learned about the US. And I think that that's a good thing. And when we talk about global north, global south, I think that the diversity of women in both countries is vast in terms of writers, in terms of artists, and in terms of storytellers. And when you read the book, which will be reprinted in the US soon, it's coming, you'll know that this is the introduction to the story in my mind. So let's keep building bridges and remember how important our words are and how important it is that they're recorded for posterity and for future generations. This is a book that every woman needs to read, that every person needs to read, and that I hope we can get it into the hands of every university student everywhere. So thank you for hosting us. Thank you for having us. Thank you, McCreary University. And I will leave it at that because I know we're short on time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ali Tucker. I am so happy about technology, and I just applaud the people behind. At least we've been able to listen to all our panelists, and they've aired out their views about this experience they had in the books. Now I'm going to go quickly around to ask specific questions of panelists now, and I'll start with Hilda. Most of the issues have already been discussed in one way or the other. And you are the editor of the book, one of the editors together with Ali, Dr. Ali Tucker. And this question should be for the two of you. She has already mentioned something about it. And the question is, public discourses as a bridge. The title of the book is The Bridge Called Woman. The woman is being referred to as the bridge. But also in your introduction, you say public discourses, and books such as these are bridges. So what kind of bridges do these stories build for a fair society?
Thank you. I think in my interaction with all the stories and that time I was looking, we struggled to find a title for this book. I tell you, we got to the end with over 30 titles, and we didn't like any of them. We kept, no, there's something wrong. And then one day, Ali shares some poetry written by a woman from the US, and I'm reading the poetry, and then the word bridge jumps out. I send her a message immediately, and I tell her, we have the title, This Bridge Called Woman. She sends us a thumbs up, and that was it. The writers had also sent us suggestions, but looking at it as the bridge and also in terms of the theme of this conference, what has jumped out for me is knowledge. That the women's knowledge, the women's experiences have not really been part of the public discourse because of our time of entry into writing. Because even today, the articles written even now, even today, women in literature and books remain minimal. I was reading a research about women and men writing. I think it's written 2020, last year. And 40, they were looking at who reads what. 19%, the people interviewed, 19% of the men had read the best-selling writers, best female selling writers had been read by only 19% of the interviewed. And for the best-selling male writers, it was almost 50-50. 45% of women had read the best-selling authors. So women, we are moving. Women are moving. Women writers, women storytellers are moving. We can't say we are still right at the edge, but we are not yet central. So for me, what stands out is that we need the women's stories. We need the women's knowledge as the bridge. In one of the stories, all the stories are so important. You know, as we wrote and edited the stories, I would call Ali, she calls me, and we find ourselves talking about each story and saying how very important each story is. But in one of the stories, Dr. Benis, I think Dr. Benis Martinezzi, she talks about, as a little child, I think about 6 years old, she stood up for a little child, another little child who had missed the place because a teacher had refused her to move out of class. And Benis, the little girl, stands up. First of all, she had been told she was overweight, and so she was supposed to be silent in her class because she had no space, she didn't fit. But she stood up. She stood up with truth. And this truth froze the teacher, the commander in front of class. And so for me, such stories, Amy just talked about how we need to speak about the history that we live, put down our stories as part of the history that we live. For Benis sharing that story now, I find it a bridge of her time and the time today. Because you realize the challenges remain the same. And we need to address them together, borrowing from history.
Thank you. I know as a storyteller, you can tell us
Go
the story.
on and on.
Yes, and this is really exciting. I wish break tea had not taken some of our time. But I just want us to get a sneak peek of one of these stories. And I'm going to invite, please introduce yourself. It's very bad that I did not introduce you, but I introduced Honorable Jane Francis Cooker. She's going to assist us to read for us just a small bit of the story. And as she reads, Honorable, I want you to think about this and give us a response. In sharing these stories, what do you think is the role of memoirs in preserving and sharing cultural knowledge and values, especially cultural knowledge that's good for women, and also in expunging out cultural knowledge that is not good for women, like practices like female genital mutilation? But you can first go ahead and read to us just a little bit so that we get to know what is in the book, and the audience can see for themselves and be able to buy.
Thank you very much, Madam. It is unfortunate that I cannot now read. One of my eyes is a bit disturbing, maybe because I use too much phone. I am now 70 years and I've never used spectacles.
70 years and you're looking so young.
So tomorrow I'm going to see the doctor.
She can help.
So I am asking my daughter to read for me that part, please. Can you read? One small.
Please tell us your name.
Good afternoon. By the names of Brenda Cooker, a daughter to Jane Francis Cooker, and I'm happy to be here with you all. I'm going to read, I'm going to get some short phrase on, the title is Winning Our Freedom. Jane Francis Cooker, Diana Tumaina, and Diana Tumaina. It's on page 23, chapter 1. It goes, meet the Honorable John Francis Kukaya Siwa, a vibrant 70-year-old whose activism saved countless women from the anguish of a female circumcision. Female circumcision, also known as female genital mutilation, was outlawed by Uganda in 2010. John Francis comes from Sosur village in Sabay region, where female circumcision was the rite of passage into adulthood. She served as a member of parliament from 1996 to 2001. Chapter 2, paragraph 2. The year 2013 seemed to be her year. She was recognized as one of the 100 most significant women role models in Uganda at a corporate function held at Serena Hotel, Kampala. She was listed as one of 50 most extraordinary women in Uganda, unveiled at a function organized by the Netherlands Embassy in Kampala and the Tumaini Foundation, a Christian organization aimed at rescuing and educating vulnerable children, conferred on her a Lifetime Achievement Award. These honors were crowned by the award of Distinguished Class 4 Medal of the Nile, conferred upon her by Government of Uganda for her notable service to the nation. Many countries around the world, including Kenya, Ethiopia, Cameroon, Great Britain, Spain, and the United States, have invited her to speak on FGM. The next one?
The next one only, and then we'll stop there.
Okay. When Jane was a young girl, she witnessed the local custom of female circumcision and resolved not to have the procedure done to her. She developed a strategy of avoidance aided by her thirst for education. Each time local women approached her to get her to agree to circumcision, she put them off, saying, "I'll have it done after I complete my next level of education." When she would complete the next level, she would apply to another level so that she could then postpone the ritual. She did know whether she could beat the external pressures. She did not know if she would be kidnapped and forced to do it.
Okay, that's a sneak peek into the book. There's a song about female circumcision. Now I'm giving you more. A song about female circumcision that was intriguing me, and it's encouraging girls to run away from the practice, to escape. Now, the quick question, and you can answer briefly, Honorable. How relevant is this memoir in changing cultural practices that violate the rights of women? And how would you encourage women to use memoirs, such spaces, to write and fight against such cultures? Just briefly.
Oh, to this. You see, you're asking me how this FGM is relevant to...
No, I'm asking that how significant is storytelling in stopping such cultures that are bad for women?
Okay, thank you very much. Of course, this FGM has done, I think it has done more harm than good. But at the moment, when you go to the communities, they have now understood that FGM is harmful. And what?
No, please let her speak.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
They have understood the health of the FGM, that it is harmful. I mean, health is not good to our women. Some of them have even suffered from fistula, and now they are seeking for operations. And I think on the ground, people have understood about FGM. Not many are now going in for it. Only if they are to do it, they do it quietly, hiding. Of course, with the help of the government, they put in place ordinances, which were, some of them are very harsh, penalties for those who are cutting our girls, they are to be put in. So they do it quietly, hiding, and sometimes when the women are producing, they cut them, but not in Kapchorwa, it is in Kwen and Buko. You know, Kapchorwa has now spread. That time it was one district with the 3 constituencies. There are now different constituencies. But otherwise, we are grateful that the FGM has been understood. NGOs came in. UNFPA has been there. And I feel that talking FGM alone is not enough. So when you come as a group, women groups, youth groups, all mobilized, the FGM is understood.
It will be easier to fight. So thank you very much. Writing and collaborating with other women's groups and organizations has brought us this far, and the government. So the significance of writing and involving government, we can see is there. And swinging back to you, Amy, in terms of collaboration, she has talked about the need to collaborate with women's organizations, with government. As a person in charge of supporting cultural exchange, what has been your best experience in nurturing such initiative?
Tough question, because there's so many good answers. So one thing that I love about what my office does and the exchange programs that we manage is that we invest in people, right? And that's part of what the US Embassy is doing here in Uganda, not only when it comes to education, but across many sectors. You know, the US is invested in a healthy, vibrant Uganda where every citizen has the chance to thrive. And we do that through so many different programs. A lot of them happen here at Makerere on our investment in a lot of the infrastructure and programs at Makerere, particularly in public health. But it also applies to programs across the country in economic development and democratic and civil society support. But in my office, it's the investment in individuals that I think is so powerful through the exchange programs. And so to twist your question a little bit, in terms of the most impactful work that we do, it's actually in the work that our alumni do. So it's not what the US Embassy does, because we provide the platform. We send somebody on an exchange program. You get to spend 3 weeks in America meeting women writers, or a semester studying at a US university, or a 5-week leadership program. We give you that platform. But the result is really what alumni do when they come back from those exchange programs, and the impact that they make on their community. So when I get to meet with alumni of US programs that are leading, you know, a teacher training program for underprivileged youth, or building businesses as women leaders based on their connections to the United States, or inspiring young girls to stay in school because of the connection they had with the US, that makes me proud of the work that we're doing. And I think that this book is a good example of that. You know, the US Embassy had nothing to do with the actual writing of the book. That's all the women in this room, on that screen and across these 2 countries that actually wrote the book. It was their idea. And it's because of that connection that the embassy was able to support that this book happened. And we see that across disciplines. I see it with academics here at Makerere regularly, with Fulbright scholars that build connections between their university and Makerere because of the experience of one individual. So I'm constantly amazed at what individuals can do to improve their world, be it the academic space or the cultural space, or in politics, in civil service, in science, because of the touch of an exchange program that often helps open your mind in a way that you never thought was possible, just by being exposed to something new. And we're proud to help do that from the US government and give that exposure to US culture that we hope can spark some new ideas and give the platform for further engagement here in Uganda.
Thank you very much. We have 2 minutes, and I don't know what Pamela and Ali can say in 2 minutes, but I don't want to rob you of that time. Quickly for Pamela, you've taught us one thing, that we can do research through WhatsApp, and the challenges that are there. Perhaps to ask, how else would you advise for such collaboration? How else can we do it that can make it easier for collaborators from the Global South and the Global North to interact freely with the women, given the experience that you had in interviewing Karoro?
Wow. I don't think a project like this can ever be easy. There are logistical hurdles. The 10-hour time difference was a constant. Problems with internet connections. It just introduced a lot of time delay, which gave people a lot of time to think about things. I think earlier, it was Ali or Hilda talked about some of the groundwork and the initial workshop type sessions we had in interviewing and memoir writing. I think that was very essential, both to help the writers get oriented to what they were supposed to do, develop some confidence, and also feel a commitment to the project. That, as Ali alluded, it was hard to stick with it through COVID and everything else, but we all had that foundation at the beginning before we really got into the project itself that bonded, and I think that would be important for future projects. Perhaps Ali has different thoughts.
Thank you, and that's the last question I'm going to give to Ali. I want you to talk about the positive side. What can we nurture? We're talking about knowledge production, global collaborations between the Global North and the Global South. From this experience, what do we take forward?
I think I'm going to say love. That's kind of a radical. I see Pam, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King in our country said it starts with love. Bell Hooks, the feminist scholar, said, first you must think how you're going to love your students before you can teach them. Audre Lorde said you must find your voice, and the master's tools will not dismantle the house. So if we're going to have real revolution in terms of thoughts and actions and cross culture, then it starts with love. And I think that's one of the things, and I think Hilda would probably agree, because this fostered real relationships where some of the writers and some of the storytellers cross-culturally are still talking to each other. They still have relationships. They have ongoing friendships, and we have pen pals between writers, Ugandan and US. And it really is relationship and love and a project and a passion. So it might sound not radical, but I think it's probably the most radical thing we can do.
Thank you very much. We are talking about a cultural revolution. We are talking about collaborations. And during the morning session, the keynote speaker talked about the need for us to look at the linguistic turn and see how the word can help us to change perspectives. And women, as women writers, we are invited to be part of this, and we shouldn't wait to be invited. I'm happy that we are having conversations between us across these spaces. We've come to the end of our time. I can see the next chair of the chair of the next panel is looking at me. Do I still have time? 2 minutes. Within those 2 minutes, allow me to thank really to express my gratitude to the panelists for all that they shared with us. Can we give them a hand? Allow me also to thank the other authors who are in the audience. I think it's only fair that you stand up and we see you so that we know that we are talking about stories of people who are here. Can you please stand up? Thank you. Peace Chamoreko from Nau. It's a pleasure to have you here. Sometimes people disappear and we don't see you for a long time, so it's good to have you here. And Doreen, it's really good to have you back home here. And within us, I hadn't introduced, we have one very important guest from the U.S. Embassy Cultural Affairs section. I don't know if I'm going to introduce you correctly, but we have Dorothy Ngalomi, who is with us here, who has been very supportive of the cultural exchange program, someone whom you must really know as a Makerere student, as an academician. She has been at the center of most of these exchanges. We are very, very honored to have you come and be with us. And all of you in your individual capacities, it's been a great pleasure having you. We're going to bring the session to a close, and I want to tell you what is going to be taking place here in the next few minutes. The next panel is going to be Ethno-Nationalist Histories and Imaginaries. And it starts at 12:10. So we have about 5 minutes to do quick bathroom and say hello to a friend. And then if you want to stay in that panel, just stay around. If you want to go to another panel, we have 2B, the COVID-19 experiences and reconstructions. 2C is multiple histories and continuities. And 2D is humanistic knowledge in times of crisis. 2D is going to be in fourth floor, right? And then the other panel is in 4.1. Fifth floor, that's D. Then 4.1 is C. And then A remains here. And the students, graduate students, they're in the smart room in Chus. So thank you very much for being a wonderful audience. I didn't give you the chance to ask any question. Do I have a minute? One question? Yes. The speaker. Two questions. Okay, we've been allowed 2 questions.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm called Musani Eric, and I'm a student from Makerere University here, and I represent the Sabines SESCA, an association that joins up the Sabines. And we are the same people who have been doing that practice back home there. But as a policy analyst, I'm a policy analyst, and from the fact that most of the people who are educated, most of them are going back to it again because they are looking at it as an avenue of pulling attraction. And then some of them are going to Kenya to do it because it's not criminalized. They're using the porous borders. So what can we do to this as people who are fighting this practice?
Thank you. One more question.
Thank you, neighbor, for giving me this chance. Mine is not a question, but I just want to say that to emphasize the importance of this project, that it gave a number of people a chance to write, but to say that the lady I wrote the story for, Ruiz Maria, passed on, and maybe if I had not written for her, we would not have had that story from her. And it also reminds me that in 2 weeks back, we lost one of the brains behind the women's movement, Florence Nichon, who started the organization which Honorable Kuka talked about. So I want to encourage Honorable Kuka not to waste time. Write what you can. For Mrs. Nichon, she told her sister that it was time for her to write her story. The time she spent with the NGO, in the NGO world, she would always say, no, I don't have time for your interview. I don't want you to interview me. But this time she told her sister, come back and write my story. Now that I'm retired, I want to tell it. Within a month, when the sister came back, she found that the lady could no longer remember her story, and we lost it as Ugandans. So thank you very much for supporting this. Femorite, thank you for the good work, and may God bless you so that we hear more stories from women. Thanks very much.
Thank you. And the last, Dr. Bayingana wants to say something.
Mine is a comment. I'm not a doctor yet, but I hope very soon.
Okay.
I would really love, it was an amazing experience. Ali talked about friendships. I think I'll remain a friend with Ebony for the rest of my life. But I just want to say that there are some people who might not be able to buy the book. I do hope you're able to serialize some of these in the newspapers, because I think they do like bios even more than fiction. So I really hope there's a way, Femrite, and maybe with collaboration with your partners, to put these stories in the newspapers or create an online blog or something. Because print is wonderful and good, but for the average reader today, it might not be. I know there's a print edition, but when they're in smaller pieces, they might be more attractive. So I just wanted to thank you very much again for this program that opened our eyes to, to a whole country, but from an individual perspective, through individuals. I can't express what a life-changing opportunity it was for me, and I'm sure for the others as well.
Thank you very much, Doreen. And with that, we come to a close. I wonder whether the books are available for sale outside. Okay, the book.
Without much ado, I would like to invite panelists for the next session. And these, I will invite William Musamba to please come and take over